So this is by no means any Photoshop or anything going on here. This is how 60GT looks after we finished our migration. And hats off to our migration team. They did a great job getting all these migrants in during this off season. So what I want to show in this video were the migrants we got, like their past KVK performances, where they came from, their stats, all this sort of stuff, as well as how the kingdom looks as a whole. When I say that, I mean, how do I compare to the rest of the kingdom? How are we looking in terms of stats? Which I'm going to show right now, actually. So I showed the kills just now. If we look at the individual kills, of course, Osno's in first. I'm at 12.7 billion, which I don't think is low by any means. But in terms of 60GT, or 1960 as a kingdom, that will put me in 120th in the whole kingdom. And we have 151 players over 10 billion kill points, which is pretty crazy. But that's how 60GT looks right now. We have 68 players over 20 billion, 20 over 30, 32 players over 30 billion, and 13 players over 40 billion. So some pretty big hitters we migrated in. Looking at the individual power, obviously this will change a lot. A lot of players double filled their hospitals from last KVK to get this migration in. So these power rankings, of course, will go up a lot over the next week to 2 weeks. Currently sitting at 47 players over 100 million. But yeah, all our migrants are currently sitting in the rank 2. You can see all the migrants here. I'm going to get into them. I'm just going to give you a slight preview right here. As you can see, we somehow fit in 51 migrants, which is pretty crazy. But that shows that last KVK, we were essentially fighting with, I think they said 110 players. So that's how we were able to fit in such a large migration. We sort of just all double-filled hospitals. Some farms went offline, and we got all these migrants in, including me, during this off-season. So let me show you what I have for the migrants. So this is Ihara's spreadsheet. It's sort of showing all the migrants in terms of power and kill points. I asked her if I could use it in game, and she never replied to me, so hopefully it's okay. If not, well. Anyways, so as you can see, most of the players are above 10 billion kill points, and the ones that are not, I know Karina is a very young account, same with Aatrox. So I think what GT was looking for was not just big stats. What they were, I mean, obviously there's a lot of big stats here, but what they were mainly looking for was players that performed well in their last 1 to 2 KVKs, or accounts that they thought were young and had a lot of potential. So yeah, that's probably why they took me also, thank God. But yeah, most of the players in this range were the 80 to 90 million power range, and as I said, most of them are above 10 billion kill points, so a very solid migration overall. But one thing I wanted to talk about was where they came from, like how they did in the last KVKs. I think the most important thing to note was that the majority of the players which came to our kingdom this KVK were from 24-29. The names in bold right here, these 4 bold players are our tickets. So we had 4 tickets. We used 3 on the players from 24-29 and 1 on a player from 29-73. So this sort of shows you where all the players came from. Like I said, the majority are from 24-29, but there are other kingdoms which are here as well. I'm the only one from 18-18. I also wanted to show you guys how they sort of did in their last KVK. So I'm going to mainly talk about the 24-29 group, because that was a huge group. 27 players, which came from 24-29. Their last performance against 23-77, I was also a little bit curious about that. So as you can see, Sora was a top performer in terms of kill points. Tsunami was the biggest power dropper. I think the 4th biggest power dropper in the whole KVK, besides behind Mr. Hope, Wild Lion, and the King. Rest in peace, the King. I know he passed away, I believe, 2 weeks before Kingsland. But yeah, rest in peace, the King. And then Tsunami's in 4th place. So you can see Tsunami dropped a lot of power. 25 million T5 deads. Obviously, huge amount of deads. The rest of the players, Guriko is a very big player from 24-29 as well. And Coco Ning, I believe this is pronounced it, Coco Ning, also did quite a lot. So a lot of these players are very high quality. I would say basically all of them are high quality players. From 24-29, and they performed very well in this KVK, even though they lost. So I'm very looking forward to playing with all these players. I think 2 players which I wasn't able to find off this Looker Studio, their names were, let me look for them. Dr. Sam, I was not able to find for some reason. Dr. Sam is also a very impressive young account, I would say. His ID is very young as well. Pretty similar to my age, I'd say. So probably like 1,000 days old, doing 5 billion kill points in KVK. And I think Wolf was the other one, if you didn't see it on the previous sheet. Okay. So that's wanted to show in terms of like how the players did. The group we got from 2429. So if you're curious how much this 2429 group brought to 1960 in terms of kill points, it was very high number, 550 billion kill points. So close, a little more than half a trillion kill points, which they brought just from this group to 1960. So pretty solid migration from the 2429 members. And if you're curious about how much kill points it added as a whole to GT, it's 914 billion. So almost 1 trillion kill points, which we got worth of migrants into GT. So quite a large amount, not just amount of migrants, but quite a large amount of kill points added to GT, which explains why we are at almost at 3.3 trillion kill points. So pretty impressive migration, as you can see. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering what kingdoms can face us, what kingdoms have the best chance of going up against us now that we've had such a huge migration in. There are probably not many kingdoms that can face 1960 in its current state. Let's take a look at some of the probably best candidates at the moment. So this is a scan which was done yesterday. So it's a pretty recent scan of the kingdoms. These are probably the top kingdoms which we're looking to face at the moment. So as you can see, 1960 is first by a long shot. I believe this is top 300 data as well, not top 900. So yeah, after our migration, we're looking pretty thick, pretty big boys. So one alliance, like I said, 1093 is 2 alliances now. Last KVK, they were 3.5 alliances, but they downgraded to 2 recently. And yeah, still looking decent. 1093 still looking decent, but they're 2 alliances now, which is a lot easier to deal with than 3.5 alliances worth of players. 2049, unfortunately, they went into KVK, so nothing you can do about that. 2049 found a match. They're in KVK. Some things are probably being said about that KVK, but won't comment on that. They're in KVK, so we can't match them, unfortunately, but this is how 2049 is looking. 1365 is still 2 alliances. They're looking decent, of course. Obviously not 1960, but 1365 is definitely one kingdom I've always wanted to play as well. 1365, 1093, 2377. Well, they're still looking pretty good, but I think they're going to have another big migration in after this KVK ends. So we'll see where 2377 looks after their current KVK. Obviously, most people are saying that probably the only kingdoms that can beat 1960 is probably 2377. Yeah, I'd say it's only 2377 right now. Maybe 1093, but I don't think 1093 is as in their prime state as they were last KVK or 2 KVKs ago. So these are all the other Imperiums. Look, 1875 is also there, and then 2429 has lost a lot of members and power now. But yeah, these are like the top kingdoms I would say we're looking to play against or looking forward to fighting at some point in the future. Now, I already talked about all the migrants and like where they came from, their stats, but I think it would be cool to look at them in game and see a little bit more about them. So a couple ones that stood out to me the most. I'm not going to go over all of them. Coco Inc. from 2429. I'm just going to call him Coco for simplicity. 580 mil autark, which is ridiculously high. I believe this is still the 3rd highest autark in GT, behind Addy with 660 and Mr. Go at 590. So crazy high autark. I mean, there's no telling that 580 mil is not easy to do. I believe Peacemaker has the highest autark at like 700 mil kills. I believe 580 mil kills translates to about 11 billion kill points. So doing that in 1 KVK is by no means easy feat. Guriko, also from 2429, very high autark as well. Very good overall stats as well. Can't complain. Tsunami is probably the player I think I respect the most out of all the migrants from 2429, just because I played against him in the 2429 KVK, and this guy was an absolute menace. If you actually look at his data from the last KVK, he had the 4th highest deads in the whole KVK, behind Mr. Hope, Wild Lion, and the King. The King MG recently passed away, I believe 2 weeks before Kingsland Open, so rest in peace to the King. But yeah, Tsunami is doing the 4th highest power drop in the whole KVK, that KVK, is pretty crazy. So much respect to Tsunami. I'm looking forward to playing with him in this coming next few KVKs. Andy from 20, what was it again? 2973. This is his last KVK performance. Very solid performance from Andy in his last KVK. 10 mil deads, 4 bill KP. Sora, also from 2429. So our 2429 group is looking really stacked right here. Lupes, this is a player from 2359. I also played with Lupes in 1235 for 1 KVK. Fortunately, 1235 fell apart, and then we just all went our separate ways. But now we're back in 60 GT. Imira from 1903. I actually played against Imira when I was in 2268 for 1 KVK. Very solid field player, as you can see. Winter. I want to talk about Winter as well. Winter from 3159. Actually outdid Genie in the kill event in 3159. This is the account Genie took 2489 a little later as well. So very solid field player as well. And I think one more I wanted to talk about, Karina, also from 3159. Very young account if you look at the ID, and very high Atark as well. So these are some players we picked up that I think, in terms of field performance, have done very well recently. And then all the way to the bottom, that was all I wanted to talk about. There's me at the bottom. So these are just some of the few migrants which I think we got, which really stood out to me. I know there are a ton of migrants. There's 51 total. So these are a few that just stood out to me as like the highest performers I've seen, or highest, the ones that stood out most to me. So this is not directly tied to the migration, but I think a lot of people were wondering how much have I leeched. Maybe leech is not the best word. It is the best word when I say. How much have I leeched from GT in the 3.5 weeks since I've been here? So if you were to look at my speed ups, you can see they're in pretty good state right now. I took a screenshot of how they looked when I migrated here. Like maybe, I think this was 2 days before I migrated here. So you can see I was sitting at 2,000 days. Now I'm very close to 2,400 days. So I would say I'm roughly averaging around 100 days of speed ups every week. So not a bad rate. Some people were saying when they told them that, they said it's a little low. But at the same time, you know, I'm free to play. I don't buy any bundles. I just do the events, and I just sit here and collect gold chests. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting in terms of speeds in the about 3.5 weeks since I've been here. In terms of VIP, you can see I've collected all the VIP since I joined. This is about 237k VIP, 237,000 VIP. Of course, I'm still a very long way away from VIP 18, unfortunately, but that's just how it is as free to play. Yeah, that's just an update on the sort of progress of making in terms of my leeching. Obviously, with the spenders now in 2429, our full migration in, I expect the amount of speed ups and VIP I get to exponentially increase. So that's obviously good as well. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. Just going over the migration which we had, where the players came from, all that sort of good stuff. If you're curious about anything, just let me know in the comments, or even just if you're curious about the migrants, just go ahead and look through the R2s. So I think this will stay up for another maybe day or two, who knows how much longer. And yeah, that's all I got for this video, and until next time.